What's up, guys? What an amazing card. Let's go right into that main event. Robert Whittaker defeats Darren Till by decision 48-47 all scorecards. It was an extremely technical striking match. There wasn't a whole lot of output, there wasn't a lot that happened, but the swift exchanges were very powerful and very explosive. They both dropped each other within the first two rounds. Darren Till dropped Whittaker with an elbow, with a counter elbow. There were people that were questioning my claim that Darren Till is a great counter puncher. People didn't think he was. Hopefully this shows people what I was talking about. When you watch his previous fights with, Nicholas Dalby and some of his early fights in the UFC, also against Jorge Masvidal, dropped Stephen Thompson with a counter shot. When he decides to counter, he is extremely sharp. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. Almost every time he tried to counter Whittaker, he landed. And that first elbow, man, Whittaker tried to blitz in, and it's while I was talking about my prediction video, Darren Till backs up a little bit. I thought he was going to look more for the straight left, but he found the elbow, hurt Whittaker, but didn't seem like it completely put Whittaker out for a second, Whittaker was able to recover pretty quickly, got back up to his feet. Also, the fact that he was able to get up so quickly, as well as looking further on in the fight with his takedowns and ability to hold down Darren Till after he dropped him. Whittaker's wrestling is legit, man. It's legit. It may not be like a D1 wrestler level, but he has good MMA wrestling, especially when he mixes it up with his striking. Look how many times he shot in for the single leg and then comes over the top with the hook. He grazed almost all of those, and some of them actually landed pretty clean. And it's just him adding on points and winning the technical fight and not making it just a plain out blitzing match between each other, And then Whittaker dropped Darren Till by throwing an overhand right. He blitzed him down, but it seemed like before it, I have to look back at it, but it seemed like Darren Till got a little bit distracted. He was coughing a lot before that happened. I don't know what was going on. I don't know if Corona hit him mid-fight, but he got dropped and Robert Whittaker was able to control him very easily, landing crazy ground and pound shots that I haven't seen too often from Whittaker lately, and he just seems so strong on top, man. But in the clinch, Darren Till seemed very strong too, right? When he was able to control Whittaker up against the cage, Whittaker had a hard time shaking him off, right? And it shows that Darren Till should have been in this weight class ever since the beginning, because to hold a guy like Robert Whittaker up against the cage like that, it shows his strength, right? He should have never fought 170. He's a good size 185er, and this fight proved it. This is only his second fight in the middleweight division. But other than that, they were trying to get the outside foot on each other, but then they were both negating it by feinting constantly and making it look like they're going to throw some big punch to intercept their movements, their angles, especially Whittaker with the hooks. Whenever Darren Till looked like he was going to quickly take the outside foot, Whittaker showed him a left hook and Darren Till abandoned it and then went back to his feinting tactics. They were both trying to get each other out. They're both trying to draw out some strikes, but Darren Till, if he was confident he can get an angle on Robert Whittaker, he would chase it down, right? Trying to zone Whittaker into a left hand. Didn't normally work, because Whittaker is very good at getting his head off center line. And there were a couple moments in the fight where it did look like Darren Till was attacking too straight, and he almost got countered many of times for that. Whittaker did say something very interesting. He said when he noticed Darren Till started to be more flat-footed, he purposely was going for leg kicks a lot more because of the heavy feet of Till, right? He's not moving too much, and he's trying to keep feinting and he's rocking back and forth, trying to trick Whittaker, so Whittaker kept kicking his leg. Just amazing tactics throughout the fight, especially from Robert Whittaker. And all in all, amazing fight. I love watching these, man. And who these two should be fighting next? So Whittaker's the #1 ranked contender. He's gonna have to wait for a title shot. Maybe Jared Cannonier should be next for him. Whittaker was the champ. He just defeated Darren Till, who's top 5. And the only guy that's like up there for a title shot, I mean, there is Jack Hermanson too. Jared Cannonier has been injured and getting surgery and stuff. I don't know how far in he is on that, if he's recovering or anything like that. I have no idea. But it should either be Jared Cannonier or Jack Hermanson, because Paulo Costa is going to be fighting Israel Adesanya, and that's going to happen later on this year. Whittaker seems like he wants some time off, not too much hopefully, because he takes so much time off between all of his fights, so hopefully he can get in there by the end of the year again. I would really like to see him fight Jared Cannonier, to be honest. I think it's a more difficult fight for both of them. I think it's a very dangerous fight for both of them. I am more confident in Whittaker just beating Hermanson clear out. Hermanson's gonna have a hard time getting into the ground, and I don't think he can strike with Whittaker. So Whittaker versus Jared Cannonier is the fight I want to see next. And as for Darren Till, #5 loses to #1. Yoel Romero's fighting Uriah Hall, so that's off the table. I guess Jack Hermanson or the winner of Derek Brunson versus Edmund Shabazian, which is next week. That's a good fight either way. Both those fights are amazing, because Jack Hermanson just defeated Kelvin Gastelum, so he's up to #6. And everybody above him, besides Darren Till and Robert Whittaker, are booked or out of the scene right now. I really want to see the Hermanson fight, though. And then we go to the co-main event. Mauricio Shogun Rua defeats Antonio Nogueira by decision. It was a kind of sluggish fight, not the most technical fight. It was action-packed. It was exciting. Both of them were hitting each other hard. It was kind of crazy how good Nogueira's chin was, taking Shogun's big shots like that. But Shogun was getting rocked more than Nogueira was, especially that first left straight that hit him clean. I think it was in the first round. Yeah, nothing too much to say about it other than Little Nog is retiring and Shogun is not. Little Nog is a legend of the sport, right? He's had a long, accomplished career. He's beaten many great fighters in his career, especially doing it in his older years. A great ambassador of the sport, all-around great martial artist that everybody should look up to. And as for Shogun Rua, man, I wish he would retire after this too. It seems like he's going to be one of those fighters who's just going to keep fighting. He's just not going to stop. He fought Nogueira, who's 44 years old, and he's 38. You know, it's not going to be much easier for Shogun from here. You know, if he wants to keep competing. I really want to see him retire, to be honest. I do say that, but when I actually look at his record, he's 5-1-1 in his last 7 fights. His last loss was to Anthony Smith, which was a horrifying loss. But to lose to Smith is nothing crazy. And before that, his last loss was to OSP, and that was back in 2014. Now, a main reason for that is he doesn't fight that often. And yes, he did defeat Little Nog. He went to a draw with Paul Craig in his last fight. He defeated Tyson Pedro by TKO, defeated John Vellante, defeated Corey Anderson, which is kind of crazy when we look back at that, and defeated Little Nog again. This is all around the Anthony Smith loss. So I guess keep competing because he is not performing that badly. He is winning fights even against younger talent. And maybe the UFC would want to carry him around just to get a younger guy to make a name out of Shogun Rua. So it seems like he should retire, right? Rather retire on a high note. Look at what Mirko Cro Cop did. Mirko Cro Cop retired on like an 11-win streak. It's never good to retire off a loss. And that's really what I want to see from Shogun at this point, right? Fabricio Verdum defeated Alexander Gustafsson in the first round by submission. Got in a strong armbar, man. It looked like Gustafsson was going to keep the fight standing and make it his kind of fight. Make it a boxing match. Use his movement. Use a lot of body punches, jabs to the head. All that sort of stuff. He looked for some uppercuts, but Verdum was kicking his legs and kicking his body. And Verdum did look like he was a little bit sharper than in his last fight. He talked about his last fight. He said he wasn't focused as much or he had some kind of ring rust. And after seeing his performance against Gustafsson, it does seem to be so because he was able to not back up too much. He was able to block some of the jabs of Gustafsson, parry some of the punches, go back with kicks. He was trying to be very competitive there, whereas when he fought Alexei Olenek, he kind of crumbled and shelled up whenever he got punched at. And that was from a 2-year layoff. So once he shot in on Gustafsson and Gustafsson was able to defend it and get on top of Verdum, Verdum was able to hold on, grab onto the body lock, and drag Gustafsson to the ground. When Gustafsson does that thing he always does, he turns his back and runs away. He tried to do it against Verdum as well as prying open the hands, but Verdum's grip is something else, man. There's a reason why he's one of the most feared grapplers to ever compete in MMA. One does not just pry open his hands when he has a grip on you. Drag Gustafsson to the ground, instantly try to get the back. He got in one hook. Gustafsson did a good job of blocking the other hook from getting in. He brought in the right arm of Verdum over his shoulder to defend a choke, but Verdum is on to the next thing. He's seen this and felt this so many times. How many people have probably done this to him before? Thousands upon thousands of times. He goes right to the armbar instantly from there because Gustafsson puts his arm in position to get armbarred. Verdum is almost getting it. Gustafsson does a good job of blocking one of the legs of getting across, even the knee getting across, and Verdum goes belly down. From there, he was able to turn Gustafsson over, get his leg over the top, and it was going to be a wrap from there. No matter how long Gustafsson was going to fight, it was going to burn him out if it never got pried open, you know? So, great performance for Fabricio Verdum. He says he's not going to fight in the UFC or something. He's a free agent now. I don't know where he's going to go. Bellator, probably get a rematch of Fedor. He'll get some bigger fights. I don't really know what he wants to do in his career because the best heavyweights are in the UFC. Heavyweights outside the UFC, he's pretty much already fought some of them. I don't know what he really wants. Maybe he just wants to negotiate for more money, comes back to the UFC. Whatever happens there, I have no idea. I'm pretty sure he got paid for this fight, but it's going to be interesting. What I'd like to see for Gustafsson next is he looked good. He looked very fast for a heavyweight. He just got out-grappled by the most feared grappler in the division. A striking match would be something good for him, but all in all, I don't see him sticking long even if he fights again. He's contemplated retirement so much, it's always like in the back of his head for some reason. That's not a place you want to be when you're competing. If he retires, that's great for him. If he wants to still compete, him versus Andrei Arlovski or something would be good. Maybe an older vet in the game because Gustafsson, even though he's not old, he's taken so much damage in his career, he does seem a bit older than he actually is. I'm going to go right to Paul Craig submitting Ante Gulov by a triangle choke really early in the first round, 2 minutes and 6 seconds. So it didn't take long for this fight to hit the ground. Ante Gulov quickly got the takedown. Paul Craig seemed to welcome it, got on his back and instantly start going for triangle chokes, going for the high guards, and Ante Gulov had him up against the cage, which is a good position for Ante Gulov to start laying some ground and pound shots, which seemed to be so. But Paul Craig was working for that triangle choke for so long, I was a little bit surprised of how Ante Gulov did not notice it, or he didn't try to get out of the position. What he tried to do was punch him in the face. Well, when you're doing that, you're not necessarily breaking the grip and breaking the triangle attempt. Because Craig is super tough, he's been in this position where he's getting ground and pounded and hurt, and he comes back in the third round with a triangle. He's been through this many times already, and that sort of thing is just not going to get to him anymore. People have to know you can't just pound him out to get through his submissions. He's super long, and he has a very good guard, very dangerous guard. Antigulov tried to punch his way out of there, got caught into the triangle choke. It was really tight. He almost got an armbar with it, and just a clean submission win for Paul Craig. I don't know why I'm like always rooting for him. I don't know much about Paul Craig, but whenever I see him, I'm just happy. Maybe because he's a teacher and stuff, or he was a teacher, being Scottish, having the accent, being like a lovely personality, all that stuff. He's like a cool guy, man. I always find myself like rooting for him. Oh, do you know who's a good fight for Paul Craig? Roman Dolidze. I think that's how you pronounce it. I apologize if I didn't pronounce it right. That would be a good fight. The guy who just knocked out Kadis Ibrahimov. That would be a very interesting fight. Alex Oliveira had a good performance against Peter Sabata, a lot of good body kicks, really stayed long, did what he usually does, just didn't get that knockout he was looking for, right? He was hurting Sabata to the body, trying to find that right straight, trying to find some jabs, and Peter Sabata couldn't get in his range because of the kicks. The kicks alone were enough for Oliveira to pretty much win this fight. And he ultimately won by a decision. It was a good performance by him. Khamzat Chimaev, I think that's how you pronounce it. I gotta learn his name, man, because he's gonna be in there for a while. It's gonna be a hard fight for anybody competing up against him. Big Khabib, that's who he is. He's Big Khabib. Not only does he fight like Khabib, he talks just like Khabib. It's hilarious. Well, he defeated Rhys McKee by TKO in the first round, 3 minutes and 9 seconds. How crazy is this? He took the fight on 10 days notice, a 10-day turnaround from his last fight. He fought 10 days ago, which is the fastest turnaround in UFC history. Not only that, he lands 57 total strikes, and he doesn't even get hit. And all of this is within 3 minutes. 57 strikes, does not get hit, and he finishes the fight in 3 minutes. How crazy is that, man? Now, he hasn't shown too much of his striking. He is only 8-0, so he's relatively inexperienced. And we still have to see his overall game, right? But is his grappling so dominant that he could do this to everybody, kind of like Khabib does, right? If he could do this to even wrestlers, if he could do this to Colby Covington, if he could do this to Tyron Woodley and Kamaru Usman, nobody's beating this guy. He's going to be the next undefeated Khabib of the welterweight division. It's too early to say so, but for certain what we can say, the guys that are as experienced as he is don't belong in there with him. He needs to fight guys more experienced or higher in the ranks. He needs to fight guys just outside the top 15 because he's just going to demolish these poor souls. So he's been calling out Mike Perry. I don't like the fight for Mike Perry. I really don't. I know Mike Perry would probably take it because he'd fight anybody, but if I was in Mike Perry's corner, if I was his coach or his manager, or, you know, if he has a coach or a manager, I would try to convince him or talk to the UFC and be like, hey man, I don't want this fight because this is a very tough stylistic matchup for him. We're talking about a guy who's not going to bang with him, he's not going to brawl with him, he's not going to stay standing with him too long, and his grappling and wrestling seems to be a little bit too dominant. He gets a Dagestani handcuff on Mike Perry, and Perry won't know how to get out of that. Francisco Trinaldo had an amazing knockout against Jai Herbert, so he was getting stunned. He got dropped in the fight. He looked a bit old. He did come in the fight 5 pounds overweight, and that probably helped him to recover as well as deliver that one-shot knockout ability, which is something he doesn't normally deliver, you know? One right hand, top of the head, which is very impressive. He KO'd him like that. The guy fell back, and Herb Dean was possessed by Mario Hamasaki for that moment because he was like, he's still breathing. Keep going, Francisco. And Trinaldo wanted the fight to stop. He stood there above him, waiting for Herb Dean to stop the fight, and the guy's not even like responsive to anything. He's clearly out of it. So good performance by Trinaldo, not a good performance by Herb Dean. But Herb Dean, for the rest of the night, he looked pretty good. Tom Espinal had an amazing performance against Jake Collier. Good knee, 1-2 combination, put the guy down. Mavsar versus Mike Grundy was an amazing technical fight. Tanner Bolster had a great performance, that big left hook. He seems to be a very good prospect in this division. So ultimately, just an amazing card, man. Really good card. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, make sure to thumbs up. If you're my content, make sure to subscribe. Merch is coming very, very soon. It's pretty much done. I'm just getting the store up. And you guys will be able to see that. You won't miss it. See you guys in the breakdown.